In 1834, Alabama's first railroad began operating between Florence and Decatur. Its sole purpose was to bypass the rapids and treacherous rocks in the Tennessee River at Muscle Shoals. As that little railroad began operation, often with horses pulling single cars, a more ambitious project got underway in Montgomery. Alabama's second railroad had the lofty goal of connecting the central core of Alabama's cotton industry with the Atlantic Ocean, and thus to the entire world. Construction of the Montgomery and West Point Railroad took almost 20 years. But when the first train made the journey in 1851, the company had overcome technical, financial, and political hurdles that had destroyed over 25 other would-be railroads that had been granted charters in Alabama. Ultimately known as the Western Railroad of Alabama, this major industrial artery ran through the heart of Opelika. In 1854, a branch line was built from Opelika to Columbus, Georgia. Both the West Point and Columbus lines tied into Georgia lines carrying the trains to Atlanta, Savannah, Charleston, and the entire east coast of the United States. By the 1880s, a line extended north from Opelika to Birmingham, and from there to any part of the American Midwest and beyond. Opelika was truly East Alabama's railroad hub. In the 20th century, when passenger travel by train was at its peak, most of the important trains were given names and became symbols of American industrial might and glamour. None was more beautiful than the Southern Railway's Crescent Limited, which rolled through Opelika on its regular run from Washington, D.C. to New Orleans. By the 1950s, Opelika was beginning its second century as a railroad town. Beautiful diesel locomotives pulled freight and passengers alike through the Y at Opelika's famous Diamond, where two major railroads crossed and interconnected. Trains were a part of everyday life for anyone who lived, worked, and played in Opelika. Thus it was. The citizens of this railroad town united their energy, imaginations, money, and management skills to build a very special railroad for the most special of Opelika's citizens, her children.
Hi, this is Bob Howell, and it's my privilege to bring you the story of this special little train, the Rocky Brook Rocket.
The story begins with the creation of the Opelika Park Board in 1946. The first park was created on a 20-acre site behind Northside School, on land donated by I.J. Scott and Winston Smith T. The first portion was cleared for use as a softball and baseball field. In 1951, the board hired Bill Calhoun as its first full-time director. He felt the wooded area behind the school was a perfect setting for playgrounds and families. As city crews and volunteers began clearing the land, Calhoun envisioned a miniature train to run through the new municipal park. He approached the many civic clubs of Opelika with his vision of the little train. 7 of the clubs pledged their support and formed the Opelika Civic Club's Scenic Railroad Association, better known as OXRA, or the Train Board. A budget of $10,000 was set aside to pay for the 43-foot train and 1,130 feet of track. OXRA was officially incorporated in June of 1955. Meanwhile, clearing of the park was completed. Park Road was graded and paved. The track bed was laid, and picnic tables were cast in concrete. The Central of Georgia Railroad ran through the heart of downtown Opelika. This company provided the cross ties, constructed the bridges, and laid the track at no cost to the city or train board. The little train was ordered. It was built by the Miniature Train Company of Rensselaer, Indiana. The model ordered was the G16 commuter, consisting of an engine, 1 center coach, and 1 observation coach. Seating was for 24 people, with a length of 43 feet. The G16 was an exact replica of the famous F7 diesel streamliner from General Motors' Electromotive division. EMF even provided blueprints, so the little trains would be accurate in every detail. The G16 ran on a track that was 16 inches wide. The 1/5 scale locomotive had a Wisconsin gasoline engine, which drove the wheels through a fluid clutch. The train was equipped with air brakes on every wheel and was built entirely of steel. The published cost of the train was $7,885. It was set for delivery, by rail of course, on June 25, 1955, with operation to begin a week later on July 1st. On June 1st, 1955, the OA News began extensive front-page coverage of Opelika's soon-to-be third train. There would be the Central of Georgia, the Western Railway of Alabama, and at this point, the newest Opelika Railroad didn't have a name. So a contest was held, and day after day, the citizens of Lee County were asked to submit their choice for a name. The grand prize was a season pass on the railroad. 169 names were submitted, most featuring the name of the rock-filled stream that flowed through the heart of the park. Locally, that stream was called either Rocky Branch or Rocky Brook. 11-year-old David McGinty forever settled the question with his winning name for the train, the Rocky Brook Rocket. David was a sixth-grade student in the school adjacent to the park and was the only person to submit that name. On June 11, 1955, it was the unanimous choice by the train board, and over 60 years later, it still has a perfect ring. McGinty had a long and successful career as a newspaperman and passed away shortly before this video was produced. Now, everything was in place for the Rocky Brook Rocket. Then the worst news possible was announced. T.C. Carr, head of the train board and former Central of Georgia executive, gave the bad news. The rocket had been shipped from Indiana, but had vanished, seemingly from the face of the earth. Carr began contacting his many former associates in the railroad industry, and a frantic search began across the railroads of the eastern United States. The June 25th arrival date came and went with no word of the missing train. Newspaper headlines pronounced the Rocky Brook Rocket was AWOL. Steadfastly, Carr and the train board held out hope that the train would be found. A front-page bulletin broke the good news on Wednesday, June 29th. The missing train had been found. A telegram to T.C. Carr informed him the rocket had been delivered to the L&N Railroad in Louisville, Kentucky, late Tuesday night, and it was en route to Opelika. Railroad man Carr must have built some fires because the little train rolled into the Opelika Freight Depot at 5 Thursday afternoon. The next day, Friday, July 1st, 1955, the newest star of the municipal park made its first run at 6:05 p.m. That evening, 273 people rode the Rocky Brook Rocket. It was fitting that Parks Director Bill Calhoun was the engineer behind the throttle when the 43-foot-long train made its first trip around the park with a full load of children. Throughout the long 4th of July holiday weekend, the Rocky Brook Rocket was the star attraction in the park. The official dedication ceremony for the train was held on Friday, July 7, 1955. Despite dark, stormy skies, thunder, and occasional rain, the ceremony took place with brief statements from A.D. Sanders, chairman of the Parks Board, Mayor Elon Lambert, T.C. Carr of the train board, and representatives from Opelika's two big railroads, the Central of Georgia and the Western of Alabama. Mayor Lambert cut the ribbon, T.C. Carr drove the Golden Spike, and A.D. Sanders christened the train with a bottle of branch water from the actual Rocky Brook. H.J. Freeman, a retired Pennsylvania Railroad maintenance supervisor, was hired as the first full-time engineer. For the next 4 decades, the rocket carried children and adults around the park on thousands of rides. But in the 1990s, the rocket fell on hard times. Normal mechanical wear and Mother Nature took their toll. Replacement parts were unavailable. Even so, local groups like the Kiwanis and Rotary Clubs raised funds to keep the train running. The Scott Bridge Company rebuilt the 2 bridges to ensure safe rides for all. But by the winter of 2014, the train broke down during the Reindeer Express rides during the Christmas season. The following spring, Matthew Battles, the park supervisor in charge of the rocket, began a fundraising project to truly restore the train to better than its original quality. In August 2015, the first action was taken toward restoring the train. Opelika Mayor Gary Fuller spoke to the media about the project.
Well, we've got a guy coming in that'll be here, maybe he's here right now, that's going to take a look at not only our train, but also at the infrastructure, the track, going to give us some advice, and we anticipate sending the rocket off to California to have it completely refurbished, and then we want to make sure that when it gets back, that our tracks and everything's in good shape, our bridges, for the rocket to run on.
Matt Battles ultimately chose RMI Railworks Industries of Oxnard, California, to handle the restoration.
I looked at railroad companies online, and really there's only 2 in the company in the United States, and RMI is the biggest one. And so I sent them just an email saying we had a G16 train, and we're looking to have it restored. Is this something that you'd be interested in doing? And I got a call the next morning from Bill Dundas, the owner, and put me in touch with David, and we've been talking probably about 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months getting all the arrangements done.
Right, and then back and forth, and we ordered a site survey to come in and inspect the track and the train before we ship it out. So that's where we are today.
After conferring with Battles, Park Director Sam Bailey and Assistant Director Tommy Agee, RMI's David Coster outlined what the company would do for the rocket.
We're going to completely take the train down to the bare frame, have it all sandblasted down, recoat it, fix all the rusted out parts, replace that. We're going to go through all the trucks, completely disassemble everything, check for tolerances, then reassemble it, install a new brake system in it, put a new prime mover in it. We're going to put a new engine in it, so you'll have many years of operation out of it.
Earlier, Matt Battles had met with the Opelika City Council and gained approval for restoration work to include the tracks for the Rocky Brook rocket. While he was at the park, Coster inspected the entire track system with Battles, Bailey, and Agee. After the thorough inspection, he outlined what was needed to bring the tracks up to par.
Well, after walking the tracks, you're pretty good in the layout plan. There's not a lot of major problems. A couple of curved realignments need to be done for a smoother operation. Cross ties need to be replaced on a regular basis as they wear out. There's not a lot of kinking in the track or lifting.
So what we got here, these are...
Over the years, Matt Battles had acquired and stockpiled a good quantity of spare parts for the train. He even had a complete passenger car.
The car is going to go with the train, and we're going to paint it the same colors and everything, and we're going to add it to the train so we'll have an additional car. So instead of just the 2-passenger cars, we'll be carrying 3-passenger cars. Another additional 12 children can get in here, and maybe a child and an adult. But this will, be able to accommodate more people and make the ride better.
As the project got underway, more improvements to the park were planned, which included new sidewalks and buildings for the train.
We're marking off where the walkway and the donor area is going to be. We're marking off where the flower beds and stuff like that would be. Master Gardeners is going to come in and do the work there. This is a preliminary walk-off, so the contractor knows where to lay the concrete.
An important aspect of the project was the source of the money. Almost none of it came from the city.
And I want to thank all of our sponsors that contributed. Very little taxpayer money has been invested in the rocket. It was foundations and businesses that stepped up to the plate, civic clubs. So we're so grateful to all those folks for making this possible.
The donors included the Scott Bridge Company, Aligari, Opelika Rotary and Kiwanis Clubs, ESG Operations, the Charter Foundation, and Keep Opelika Beautiful. One major source of funding was the W. James Samford Jr. Foundation.
We are a foundation set up by my brother in his expected but untimely death in 2003. And we have tried to spend his money on things that we thought he would be passionate about. And I can't think of anything he would be more passionate about than this Rocky Brook rocket, a train he enjoyed all of his life from the time he was 5 years old. He was probably one of the first to come and ride the train. In fact, for one of Jimmy's birthdays, it was either his 5th or 6th birthday, he had a birthday cake made like a train. And it was almost too cute to cut. I remember we never would cut it. And I remember when they had the naming of the Rocky Brook rocket. I don't know what all the names were, but I remember when it was settled on the Rocky Brook rocket, and I thought, that's a great name. I wish I had thought about that. It's really pretty much run on a wing and a prayer as it's gone through 50, 60 years. And it's wonderful that the city of Opelika is picking this back up, and the children will enjoy riding it. It's such a mystical place here. We used to love riding the Rocky Brook rocket, and we would love to just ride around and around, and we didn't know we weren't going anywhere, but we were going somewhere in our thoughts and in our dreams. Trains have been part of Opelika's history from the beginning. And now to have a little symbol the children can use. And in fact, from my house, I hear every train. In fact, the train's coming through right now. I hear every train that comes through, and I'm some blocks away. It just reminds me of my past.
Jay and Ginger Stern administer the Henry J. Stern Family Foundation to honor their parents. Their foundation is another major donor to the Rocket Restoration Project.
Back in around 2009, after my mother passed away, our dad started seeing what was going to be the future and started this family foundation pretty much for the betterment of Opelika. And he would do a lot of small things and never for any recognition. It was never something that he would go out and seek contributions for. It's a fully self-funded foundation. And when he passed away, he left Ginger and I instructions to use the family foundation to make Opelika better than it was when he got here and then we were growing up.
Municipal Park's just been a heart of Opelika, and it's meant so much to so many people from Opelika and who live here. And the Rocky Brook rocket train has always been a highlight. Everybody enjoys it. It's always fun to watch it go around, and remember riding on it when I was younger. So it's just a real important part of Opelika, and we're glad we could do whatever we could to keep it going and make it better.
The park and the rocket and everything has real deep embedded meanings in our family. Mom grew up about a quarter-mile north. Dad grew up 4 blocks south. Ginger and I grew up 4 blocks south. So everything involved family, and Opelika family evolved around the park. The Rocky Brook rocket's always been a staple. And the Reindeer Express at Christmas, it's just something we did since I can remember. You know, and my big thing was riding in the back and screaming. You went through that big, long tunnel. It's what, 12 feet long? But you know, you throw your hands up and you scream, and that was the greatest thing in the world. Steal Dad's air horn or whistle and blow it as you go under. We used to always do that. But to have friends that grew up on the other side of the junior high and we grew up here, we'd always meet at the park. And we would wade and we would make dams and pull crawfish out, and it's just what we did. And our parents knew you were safe at the park. It was Opelika. You know, the rec center was a part of family.
Mom really loved this park, and the Arts Association Arts Festival that used to be held here was just like a highlight. And all the artists that would come in, and I still treasure. I have a lot of the jewelry Mom had purchased from some of the different jewelry designers that came, and they're just everywhere I travel and wear, and people ask me about those pieces. And it's so much fun to tell them, was an arts festival that was in Opelika, Alabama, and all the different beautiful things. And she was involved in Keep Opelika Beautiful, so they did a lot of things at the park, and it was just a heartbeat of the community. So Mom was here a lot.
60 years and 1 month after the Rocky Brook Rocket began carrying children around Opelika's municipal park, the little train made its last journey around the track. This time the cars had to be pushed by hand. The little engine had given its all and could run no more. But this was not an occasion for sadness. The rocket was leaving the park for the first time since 1955, and it was going to California to be restored to a better than new condition.
Well, we're helping today the Parks and Recreation, Opelika Parks and Rec, to load up the Rocky Brook Rocket to begin the transportation to California to rebuild and refurbish the train engine. I understand it's going to take 6 or 7 months to do that, and look forward to that and revitalizing the train and the track down here. And part of our business at Scott Bridge is building train tracks and train bridges, so we've got a passion for that, and for the city of Opelika. So we're just doing our little part in helping the cause down here, rebuilding the rocket. We've palletized, trying to preserve the train as best we can during the transportation mode so it doesn't get damaged in transportation. So we built pallets to put it on using a forklift and a crane attached to our service truck to lift it, and they're strapping it down and just trying to make sure it gets there in one piece. It'll be an exciting time when the train comes back to Opelika.
I'm Carlton Hundley. I was born in Opelika in 1949 and was here when the train started in 1955. My uncle was also on the city commission, was acting mayor, I think, at that time period. We're proud at Lambert Transfer and Storage to be a small part of the transfer of the train to be refurbished and brought back shiny and new again. We're really kind of tickled that we got a train on a truck that is going to be put on a train. So we're going to have a train and a truck going on a train to California. Strange place out there, so you take a strange ride to get there. So.
With the rocket safely on its way to California, attention turned back to the park and the upgrades to the track, the buildings, the sidewalks, and the bridges.
All right, so what you see going on behind me is I have ESG operations under direction of Mike Hillier. They came in, they're putting in a trestle-type railing system on this Scott Bridge train bridge here. This is the first bridge that you cross once you get on the train, and it'll add some aesthetics look to it, plus some safety, and just bring in the railroad theme of the entire park.
There was even work done to bring the monkeys back to the monkey park, at least in a symbolic way.
And what the solution we came up with is to get a monkey statue. And we would have it caged in, very similar to the way the monkeys were originally. We found a local artist here in Opelika who will be doing those monkeys for us, and we'll have 2 monkeys initially in a cage with a monument to the monkeys. So this way, people who are not familiar with the monkeys being here will be able to have a vision of what it was like to be raised here and be able to play, feed, and see the monkeys here at the Opelika Municipal Park, known as the Monkey Park.
Meanwhile, the old train depot was completely rebuilt, and the train storage shed was extended and improved. With the new depot and storage shed/train tunnel in place, work began on the new sidewalks and landscaping.
We're going to be adding concrete sidewalks from the bridge here going out around this building and out across here just to give people a better place to walk on. Something that'll stay here and won't be washing away. We got, I think, 7 stumps to dig out. We're gonna be digging them out, backfilling them, getting rid of the old picnic table, cleaning up, resodding, regrassing. Should be very nice when we get through. They're gonna put them, I think there's a monument going out here at the end of this walkway going here. And all of it will be concrete.
Last Tuesday at the council meeting, we were able to get the resolution passed for track work to come in and completely redo the track. So part of that deal is that we're going to demo the track ourselves, so that's what we're doing today. we're having to come in and pull up all the spikes and then uncouple each section of the track and take it and store it in the shed over here, so track work can come in, and when they're ready, we just pull it on out and put it back in. So each section is the outside track is numbered. So this is section number 17. The inside track is lettered. So that way we can keep it in order, know which one was inside and outside. So when we pull it out of the shed over there, we keep it in order. And we're going to a composite cross tie. That way it won't rot, because a lot of these, this cross tie right here has been here for about 60 years. This is one of the original ones. And they're just all starting to rot out, and it causes unsafe conditions. So we're going to fix all that and go to a safer riding system. This is the new composite tie that we're going to. Now these came in 8-foot sections, and we're having to cut them to length. But this is made out of just composite material, so it's got tire in it, telephone wire, you name it, it's in there, and they just melt it all down and form it. And this is what was holding the track down, and this is what we're going to. So you can see the difference.
6 weeks after Battles and his crew finished removing all the old cross ties, clips, spikes, and everything except the track rails themselves, a crew arrived from the large Texas-based Track Work. This company specializes in railroad track construction, maintenance, and rehabilitation. Their work usually involves large Class I railroads, but they also offer services for small municipal park railroads, like the Rocky Brook Rocket. This crew came from the Houston office of Track Work, which is headed up by Joe Sanchez.
Well, our scope of work here is we're going to take the existing subgrade, blade it down, try to tighten it up, make sure there's not any soft spots, things of that nature. Once we got a good smooth road bed, that's what most people refer it to, is the road bed. Once that is done, we'll come out and space the sleepers, cross ties, and for the miniature track, they're spaced at 24 inches. Once we lay the sleepers down, cross ties, then we'll put the rail in place, and this particular track is at 16-inch gauge, and that's inside of rail, the head of rail to head of rail, 16-inch. We'll space that out and follow the contour of the subgrid that we laid, and once it's all buttoned up together, then we'll put what we call chip rock. It's basically 1/4-inch rock. It's kind of miniature compared to the railroad's standard size of 2.5-inch. Dress it all up, tamp it, what we call tamping it, we call it ballast, and put the shoulders on it, and pretty much it. Walk away from it.
Sanchez was asked how he establishes the line or layout of the track.
That's where pleasing to the eye comes into effect. We've got a few obstructions like the sidewalks that we have to make sure we go through the center of the sidewalk, through the centers of the bridge. 1 or 2 cross drains that we have to go across and center that. The rest of it is pretty much what we call pleasing to the eye. Just hold the thumb up. That looks good right there. And once we get it close to where we'd like to have it, the rest of it is just tweaking, pushing it in or out of the curve to smooth out the curves. You want a smooth curve as you can. In some instances, you can't get it, but we'll have it when this one's done.
The last major project before the arrival of the train back from California was the pouring of the concrete for the sidewalks around and about the station house and the monkey cage. All of these construction projects provided great entertainment for park visitors of all ages. Just as it had 60 years ago, the little train provided some drama and headaches for Battles and the other park officials. It did not get lost on the railways this time, but delivery was delayed time and time again. The original estimate in late August of 2015 was for a 6-month delivery.
I think you're at, what, 6 months?
It was 6 months.
6 months for the time we get it, to tear it down, get it out, and get it. It's all the subcontractors that we use for like the powder coater and the thing getting out there.
That would have made the due date late February of 2016. That turned out to be wildly optimistic. Even a promised delivery by the 4th of July came and went with no train. Finally, on the day after Thanksgiving 2016, a truck rolled into the yard at Lambert Transfer, and inside was the reborn Rocky Brook rocket. Carlton Hundley of Lambert Transfer took the honor of the first ride on the train, such as it was. Soon it was loaded onto a flatbed truck and delivered to the park, where a very relieved Matthew Battles was waiting.
I'm a little relieved. Once I get it over there and it runs around and we get through Reindeer Express, I can maybe have a good Christmas.
15 months after leaving, the Rocky Brook rocket was finally home in Municipal Park in Opelika. Once again, the team from Scott Bridge joined forces with Opelika Parks and Recreation employees to get the train off the pallets and onto the track. In what was essentially their original loading operation played back in reverse, the Black Friday team worked smoothly and quickly to get the job done. Opelika Mayor Gary Fuller expressed the feelings of everyone involved in the project.
Well, it's an exciting day for all of us in Opelika because of getting the Rocky Brook rocket back home. It's been too long since it's been gone, but I think the wait is going to be well worth it. I think everyone is going to be thrilled by the way the rocket looks and the way it operates. The rocket has been running here at Municipal Park, or Monkey Park as the locals call it, for 60 years. It took about a year and a half hiatus. So now it's back, and I think it's going to thrill and delight youngsters of all ages for the next 60 years. So it's a big event. It's a great day, another great day in Opelika.
The first day of December 2016 dawned clear, bright, and seasonally chilly. It was a perfect day weather-wise. Municipal Park had been decorated in its traditional Christmas finery. The hundreds of lights throughout the park would turn it into a magic fairyland after dark. Park workers went about blowing away stray leaves which had fallen on the new sidewalks. A crowd began to gather an hour before the official ceremony was to begin. The new pair of artfully created monkeys waited patiently for their first glimpse of the new rocket. Festively dressed conductors pointed out the many new changes to the park. Parks and Recreation Director Sam Bailey and Train Project Manager Matt Battles watched with apprehensive excitement as the crowd continued to grow. As the big moment drew near, Mayor Fuller announced the honor of the first ride would go to the sponsors and their families.
We want our sponsors and their children to be the very first to ride the new rocket. So if you're a sponsor and you don't have your yellow wristband, please get you one, because here in a few minutes we're going to have that first train ride.
Opelika Parks and Recreation Director Sam Bailey summed up the work and dedication that led to the day's events.
You know, when you bite off a project like this, no one can do it by themselves. And it's been a project and a long one we kind of thought we might never finish. But it's here, today's here, we're all happy to be here. And when you see this many people come together with all these sponsors and all this support, it makes you understand why Opelika is a great place to live and a great place to be a part of. All these sponsors we have been awesome. But one other thing that needs to be mentioned, not necessarily a sponsor like this, when you bite off something like this, you've got to have the support of City Hall, as they say, and we certainly have. When we've needed something, our mayor, Joey Motley, our council, they've been behind us every step of the way, and without their support, we'd have had no shot at this. So it's great for Opelika, and we're excited to have it, and we hope everyone has a good time this evening.
Then, at exactly 4 p.m. on December 1st, 2016, the mayor gave justifiable praise to Train Project Manager Matt Battles.
Now there's one more VIP superstar that we want to show some love to. Matt Battles. Matt's already in there on the train. And Matt Battles has been our champion on this train project. And Matt is a 20 under 40 grad. He got all this started, and he has devoted countless hours above and beyond. We're all so proud of Matt for his idea, for his hard work, and Got a beautiful young family, and in fact, Matt will be the engineer bringing the train out. So right now, let's give it up for Matt Battles and welcome the Rocky Brook Rocket back to Opelika.
And then the Rocky Brook Rocket rolled out in all its new splendor to the eagerly awaiting crowd. While the new diesel engine rumbled, sponsors and their children and grandchildren climbed aboard for the first official ride on the rocket.
With room to spare. How much fun is this? Get out close, buddy.
Looking as happy as a 10-year-old boy on Christmas morning with his first electric train, Mayor Fuller led a group of past and current city officials and their families on the second ride around the park.
In the warehouse, I got to ride it.
As the sun set and twilight began spreading over Municipal Park, families began queuing up for the first public ride in the new Rocky Brook rocket. This evening was also the official beginning of the annual Reindeer Express, an Opelika tradition enjoyed by hundreds of families each Christmas season. The crowd eagerly watched the time drawing nearer and nearer to 5 p.m., official starting time of the Reindeer Express. As the sun sank lower and lower below the horizon, the darkness increased in the park and the hundreds of Christmas lights began to reveal their magic glow. Then, to whip up the excitement even more, Matt Battles rode with the new honorary engineer James Spain on a test ride around the park in order to assure a perfect ride experience for the public. By now, darkness had settled and the park was fully aglow with Christmas lights and Christmas spirit. The gates were dropped and the crowd surged forward and onto the train. At precisely 2 minutes before 5 p.m., the Reindeer Express made its first journey around the park with the reborn Rocky Brook rocket. The Reindeer Express ran for 2 more weeks. Then the train was put up for the winter. On the following April 1st, 2017, the rocket was once again back in full-time operation, where it would be running a full schedule until October.
Well, it's another terrific day in Opelika. It's a great day in Opelika. Every day's a great day in Opelika, but this is even better because the Rocky Brook rocket is back, is running wide open, and it's taking children and adults around the park. Folks are having a big, big time, just like children since 1955 have had. But the rocket is back, better than ever. The park looks terrific, and I'm just thrilled about it. Matt Battles has done a terrific job, the park board, Sam and Tommy. So it's been a team effort, and of course all the wonderful folks in Opelika that have supported the rocket, that have contributed money. Very little or no tax money was spent to restore the rocket. Generosity of folks that contributed money because they recognize and realize the value of having something like this for our children and our grandchildren. So it's a wonderful, wonderful day.
The little train had been on a journey of 60 years and approximately 16,000 miles, half of that inside Municipal Park. With a bit of luck and the kind of care and treatment the rocket has received in its first 60 years, some of the present-day riders will be able to ride the train with their grandchildren in the year 2077. And they'll tell those children the tales of how the magical little train came back to life in 2017, and how it carried them on journeys of imagination.
And we would love to just ride around and around. We didn't know we weren't going anywhere, but we were going somewhere in our thoughts and in our dreams.